Welcome back to this last session of the day on high-performance computing. Those of you who were with me on my last walkabout, I do apologize. We were trying to get into the rock hole, but that didn't work out. But I'll make sure that I get you free tickets for everybody for the next concert that comes along. So for our last discussion of the day, and by not the least by any means, is going to be moderated by Sarah Bouchon, who is head of our Market Intelligence Division here at Lux Innovation, and they will be talking about high-performance computing. Sarah.
Thank you, David. And I am in for a free ticket, please. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session on EDIH and high-performance computing. What is the current HPC landscape in Europe? What role can EDIH play to support the dissemination and penetration of HPC technologies? Are there some best practices on how to support businesses, and in particular SMEs, accessing HPC resources? Here are some of the issues we would like to discuss in this session. I am Sarah Bouchon, Head of Market Intelligence at Lux Innovation, and I will be your host for the next 45 minutes. It's now my great pleasure to welcome our three guest speakers. Mr. Anders Jensen is the Executive Director of the European HPC-Joint Undertaking. So EuroHPC is the European entity in charge of deploying the European HPC infrastructure. Welcome, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you.
Mr. Roger Lampa is the CEO of LuxProvide. LuxProvide is the entity based in Luxembourg, hosting one of the 8 European supercomputers. Thanks for being here, Mr. Lampa. Our third speaker is Marco Barbagelata. Marco is manager at STAM, an engineering company from Italy involved in the Cloudy Factoring project. Welcome, Mr. Barbagelata. So before I leave the floor to Mr. Jensen, let me remind you that you can raise your question in the Q&A section. And please do not hesitate to share your thoughts and your impressions via Twitter using the hashtag EDIH2021. Please, Mr. Jensen, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting. I believe I'm supposed to have a presentation there. Yeah, next slide, please. So I've been asked to take you through very quickly what the EuroHPC-Joint Undertaking is, so for background. Essentially, we are an entity that has been created with the purpose to pool resources from our members in order to create a top-of-the-range supercomputer infrastructure in Europe for the users wherever they are in Europe. And in parallel to that, also implement an ambitious research and innovation agenda. We're based here in Luxembourg, in lovely offices. We were declared autonomous as of September last year, so we are very young, and at the moment we have 12 employees and we're growing. Anyway, next slide, please. So our members are we have 32 participating countries, so not only the EU member states, but we also have non-EU member states. If I can have the next bill, please. And of course the European Union, represented by the Commission, and we have 2 private members. Next slide, please. So what's important for today is that our purpose is to build a supercomputer infrastructure for Europe. And basically, if we can have the next build, please. So for that, we have a number of computers that are being built at the moment under contract. So we will have 2 new exascale computers, one in Finland and one in Italy, that are being built at the moment. Next build, please. We will have a total of 4 petascale machines, and you can see the countries there, but one of them being Luxembourg. And the last build, please. And then still to come, we will have an extra machine, a petascale machine in Portugal, and there will be another exascale machine being built in Spain. So a total of 8 machines to provide computing capacity for Europe. Next slide, please. So who will use these machines? Well, primarily they will be used for research and research and scientific users. But it is also the ambition to provide access for industrial users, and in particular SMEs. And the idea being that SMEs may not be able to afford such technology on their own, so therefore giving access to this could really be a boost for industry. Next slide, please. The uses of the machines are in and around science, of course. Next slide, please. Climate change is one of the big ones that is up on everyone's lips at the moment, to simulate the weather. These are the kind of things we can do with these machines. Next slide, please. Health, of course, COVID-19, all the research that's gone into that. Supercomputers have played a very significant part in that. Next slide, please. And then, the reason we're here, industry. For simulating product design and shortening basically the time to market, there's a real potential for supercomputers to be helpful, as they can do things that your normal computers cannot do. Next slide, please. So what we're doing in EuroHPC is we're very much building up a European ecosystem for high-performance computing. So not only are we investing in machines, but we're also investing heavily in research. We will be developing a European processor with the intention to build a supercomputer based on European technology. For the purposes of what we're talking about today, there's another important pillar, which is that we're building up a network of competence centers, national competency centers across Europe, to provide knowledge and expertise in HPC technologies. And we will also be establishing an education program and skills and training in general on HPC. Next slide, please. So next steps, I mean, we're not stopping here. There's a significant investments going into HPC from Europe. And although it's still under discussion, the intention is the proposal is a budget of 8 billion will go into supercomputing, which will take us to the next frontiers of machines, but we'll also look into quantum computing and to provide cloud-based HPC services for public and private users. So, next slide, please. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jensen. I think that thanks to your presentation, we can appreciate the huge efforts made by Europe to build the HPC infrastructure. So our next speaker, Mr. Lampa, will now share with us his vision of how HPC is implemented at national level and how it connects to the local ecosystems. Roger, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the invitation. So I was asked to present the Luxembourg strategy. Could you go ahead? Thank you for the slide. The Luxembourg strategy to deploy HPC expertise to SMEs via the EDIH and EuroCC. So Lux Provide, a public limited company, is part of the Luxembourg Digital Innovation Hub and supports actively the development of the data-driven economy. So you could use slide 2, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the main mission is to empower the Luxembourg digital ecosystem with a focus on industry and SMEs. Lux Provide is the hosting entity for one of the 5 EuroHPC-Joint Undertaking petascale supercomputers and will operate the leading-edge national supercomputer and data infrastructure. On the Luxembourg National Supercomputer, EuroHPC will ensure public and private research. Therefore, 1/3 of the total yearly computation time will be allocated to research via praise. Lux Provide will commercialize HPC, HPDA, and big data and AI services. This commercial approach helps to to democratize the access to HPC and to speed up the use of supercomputers without going through public open calls. Next slide, please. LuxProvide has chosen a modular architecture to support efficiently applications in different domains, like automotive, energy, logistics, space, clean tech, fintech, and e-health. The supercomputer, named MeluXina, consists of 4 main modules: one cluster module with 2 petaflops CPU only, one accelerator module with 10 petaflops GPUs, a large memory module with 80 terabyte RAM, and a storage module of 20 petabyte with a throughput of 400 gigabyte per second. The core supercomputer high-speed network is a 200 gigabit per second HDR InfiniBand. In addition, there is a cloud module for user applications which can be linked to the HPC infrastructure. Next slide, please. So LuxProvide helps the industry and the SMEs improving their business. Therefore, we offer compute and data resources to professional HPC users, solution engineering to less advanced users, support and training for beginners. To create awareness, LuxProvide, together with the EDIH, will organize roadshows to explain SMEs how the use of supercomputer could bring innovation to their business. Next slide, please. Supercomputing for industries and SMEs paves the way to novel industrial applications, enables industrial sectors to become more productive and to scale up to higher value products and services, reduces product design and production cycles, optimizes decision processes, and finally increases resource efficiency and minimizes costs. Next slide, please. Luxembourg is an active member in the EuroCC project via a consortium headed by Lux Innovation, with the participation of LuxProvide and the University of Luxembourg. The objective is to implement European interconnected national competence centers to support academia, public administrations, industry, and SMEs. There will be 33 NCCs, of which each NCC will act locally to map available HPC competencies and identify existing knowledge gaps. The project will bridge the existing HPC skills gaps while promoting cooperation and the implementation of best practices across Europe. To bring the right expertise to the NCC, LuxProvide is hiring HPC specialists coming from different multidisciplinary domains. To conclude my presentation, I would like to say that the European collaboration via the EDIH and the NCCs will help SMEs to implement their digital transformation. However, it is crucial to lower the barriers to have access to supercomputers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lampa. We are very much looking forward to see how Luxembourgish businesses will work with MeluXina and how this will contribute to shift towards a data-driven economy. Our next speaker, Mr. Barbagelata, will now share with us the standpoint of a SME, very much committed to accelerate the adoption of HPC resources within SME. Marco, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me digitally, in the spirit of digital innovation hubs. I should have a presentation popping up somewhere. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Today I was asked to come here and tell you a little bit about the best practices in HPC disseminating towards European SME. But first, a few words about STAM and why we're here talking. Like Sarah correctly mentioned, we are an Italian engineering consultancy firm. We are specialized in tech innovation, and by doing so, for the past 24 years, we have developed a network, the competencies and the methodologies that allowed us to speed up our clients' digital innovation journeys. We are based in Genoa, not far from the Leonardo supercomputer that Ian was mentioning. And let's say by doing this for the past 24 years, supporting our clients towards innovation and digital innovation, we could say that we have become a digital innovation hubs ante litteram, like we say. So next slide, please. Next. Yes, so as we were preparing for this call, I thought it was good to kind of give a little background about the fundamentals. So the concept of a digital innovation hub and why it's relevant for a company such as STAM that as a work promotes technology innovation. And I will read one of the many definitions. A digital innovation hub is a one-stop shop that supports companies and the public sector in their digital transformation. Apart from the technical expertise, they have to be excellent in talking the language of their clients. I will read that again. They have to be excellent in talking the language of their clients. And I'm not talking about English, French, Italian, whatever. I am talking about understanding the industry in which their clients operate. And we have to be skilled at doing this to provide clients the four key pillars, let's say the key family of services that are described here. So the famous test before invest, support to find investment, innovation ecosystem finding, and skills and training. Next slide, please. Yes. To give a little more information about, let's say, what a digital innovation hub is today, it's good that we understand what a digital innovation hub has been for the past, let's say, 5 years. So I kind of described the timeline of digital innovation hubs in Europe. And as you can see, in 2016, that's when the, let's say, one of the first official definition, actually it was much more than it was not much more than a term, was coined. And at those time, there were about 100 organizations acting as digital innovation hubs. So the term was coined before the concept actually became sound and clear. And that was part of the intent in wanting to allow countries to interpret the concept in a way that was fitting their needs. So the following year, the Cloud Factoring project, an H2020 project funded under the I4MS initiative, was submitted. At the time, like I said, the concept of a digital innovation hub was not that clear, and this allowed companies such as STAM that right now could not act as a digital innovation hub, be a part of the digital innovation hubs of the project and support manufacturing SMEs in adopting HPC-based solution. On 2018, we had the first open call, so a call for proposal for manufacturing SMEs to use HPC-based solution to simulate their manufacturing processes, and it was a huge success. Then the following couple of years, more initiatives started, including the DigitBrain project, that is a follow-up of the Cloud Factoring project. And now we are, like the event says, gearing up towards European digital innovation hubs. One figure that I think is relevant is we are having about 1,500 organizations actively participating in the EDIH network. So in a 5 years time span, we had a 10x factor of growth, which is huge, of course. Next slide, please. Since I mentioned the Cloud Factoring project and the DigitBrain project, such as the main source of experience that we were able to gather, of course, they gave us a chance to test some of the concepts behind digital innovation hubs and follow up on those and create best practices. So I will very briefly describe the mission. So the Cloud Factoring project aims at optimizing production processes and producibility using cloud and HPC-based modeling and simulation. And the DigitBrain project is a follow-up to the Cloud Factoring project, and it aims to adapt the Cloud Factoring solution towards an innovative business model that is called manufacturing as a service, where the Digital Innovation Hub is the interface towards resources. And these resources might be skills, might be HPC resources, might be the access to networks and so on. And so, next slide, please. Through these projects, so the Cloud Factoring project is coming to an end. It's in the last few months. The DigitBrain project started in July. We saw a shift in the ways that digital innovation hubs could actually support SMEs in adopting HPC-based solutions. So on the left, you can see the approach that we used in Cloud Factoring that is kind of linear. So you would have a network of digital innovation hubs. Within the project, we have Innomine from Hungary. We have the FKI, IT for Innovation and Insomnia, and STAM. And you would have digital innovation hubs kind of supporting the journey of manufacturing SMEs. In DigitBrain, the Digital Innovation Hub is the interface towards other consumers, towards other digital innovation hubs, and towards resources such as HPC resources. This is a huge shift, and it's something that radically changed the way that we promoted open codes, the way we communicated to SMEs. And I will try to say how. So what's the point of telling the history if you're not trying to foresee the future? So next slide, please. What I'm seeing happening, what we are all seeing happening, which is part of the reason why we're here, is that as the Digital Innovation Hub initiative is growing, we are seeing growth also in the network. So here you can see the representation of the network of digital innovation hubs and manufacturing SMEs that we had within the first wave of experiments within the Cloud Factoring project. Next slide. Here you can see wave 2, and you can see the network growing and becoming more intricate, wave 3. And here, nope, back, yes, here is perfect. So here you can see in a 3 years time span how complex the network became and how much the links, so the lines connecting the dots, are not only, let's say, coming from geography proximity, but they're coming also from proximity in terms of knowledge and know-how, which is a key aspect of what I'm about to say. So next slide. So this is all going into the direction of having the digital innovation hubs becoming components of networks of networks or networks of hubs. So this is, let's say, one of the key elements of the strategy for the European Digital Innovation Hubs program, and that is that to make sure that the capacities coming from the strategic objective of SMEs are actually used. The digital innovation hubs have to work closely to be the interface towards the digital world, towards manufacturing SMEs. And so one of the key examples that is made is to help SMEs make use of advanced computing facilities by putting those facilities in the context of an end-to-end innovation process, which is exactly where I think this initiative is going and where I think it's key for us to be talking right now. I would say that this is my last slide, but I'm open to any questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco, for your presentation. And thank you to the three of you to have respected the time for your presentation. This leaves us around 10 minutes to have a short panel discussion before we take questions from the audience. So I would like to start maybe with you, and as you mentioned in your presentation that the European HPC infrastructure is built to foster innovation and to serve the industries. But in your opinion, to which extent are SMEs aware of the opportunities offered by high-performance computing in Europe?
So we're building an infrastructure that is also available to industry, but it will have a number of users. SME is a very important part of it. I think you hit it on the head. You know, to what extent is industry knowledgeable of what's out there. I think that's one of the challenges that we face now. We will have all of these machines come online during the course of 21 of this year, and a lot of work will still need to be done in order to make sure that people are aware that this is a possibility out there and helping them access it. I think what the last speaker said is spot on. We need people that can be the glue, people that can speak the language on both sides, and I think that's where the competency centers that we're putting in place and the digital innovation hubs could be extremely interesting.
Roger, would you have any thoughts on how you want to address this awareness issue in Luxembourg? Are you planning some specific actions, for instance?
Yes, we do, and not alone as LuxProvide, but together with the two platforms, the one directly linked to EuroHPC, which is EuroCC, and the other one, of course, the Luxembourg Digital Innovation Hub, because HPC is only one piece out of many pieces for this transformation for SMEs to the digital world. But I think it's important that there is a centralized partner, and it's key, as Marco said that there are people that they are speaking not English or French or German, but they are speaking the language of the customer, that they know exactly what they do. And that's also one of the reasons that LuxProvide is hiring experts, not only HPC experts, but also in other domains. So it has to be multidisciplinary competencies on board, so that we can cover more than one domain.
Thank you, Roger. And that brings me to another question for Marco. I think we all really liked your expression, we need to talk the language of our clients. Could you give us an example of how you concretely would do it, especially towards small and medium-sized companies?
Of course. Just one very simple example coming from the Cloud Factoring project, and that is that a lot of time describing the let's say the technical parts of an HPC facility or the features of technology and so on is of no help for a manufacturing SME. So we had this SME specialized in building catamarans, and up until before the project they were doing it almost by hand, and they were running these huge CFD simulations that would run for weeks, and the results would be, if the computer doesn't break, you get a result. But to them, it was not a point of describing, what's the feature of the machine that they're going to use, what is going to be the orchestration, and so on. To them, it's going to be understanding what part of the process am I making simpler, and what do they need to understand to fit that into their process. And so it became more of a black box, where you'd have to put the competencies, like Anders was saying, the competencies to kind of fit that black box into a process. But to them, you need to see it from an end user point of view. You need to say, okay, this is going to make it faster. Within 2 hours, within 15 minutes, whatever, you're going to have the results of CFD, and potentially get the results for your hull or for whatever you are simulating. So this, I think, is a key aspect. And of course, to do that, you need to understand the client and to have seen their point of view.
Thank you, Marco. Very interesting examples. I also would like to hear from you, maybe from you, Roger, in the first place. We've mentioned the challenges linked to raising awareness of the SMEs with respect to HPC. What other types of barriers do exist, in your opinion, and what can be the solutions to overcome these barriers to support SMEs accessing HPC capabilities?
Yeah, there are different barriers, and I would not call it a barrier. First, we have to explain to SMEs which are not now equipped with own skills, so that they have IT people on board, meaning that we have to show what can be reasonably be done with an HPC. So we have to explain with use cases what other achieved and how they used also the knowledge from a competence center. So to at the end, we have to take them with the hand. But if you just see it today, most of the HPC time is used through public and private research, and this is done via open calls, and you have to follow all the let's say the procedures, which could take a long time. And also, if you're a small SME, you don't have the right knowledge how to do, to whom to speak. So all this is Lux Innovation in Luxembourg is already covering and helping them. But I think that has to be speeded up, and also to give them an easy access. And then from our point of view, for LuxProvide, we are trying to to do first a proof of concept, just to show what could be taken out, because not everything can or should be done with an HPC. There is no need for. It has to be really an application for an HPC. As Marco said, there are manufacturing companies that would like to use the HPC as a tool, a daily tool, and this is to bring time to market. So today they have to do calculations over 3 weeks with normal computers, and now with an HPC it can be done in a day. So that's to speed up. So all this has to be shown to SMEs and also to the industry, because not all the industrial companies they have or they use they use HPC. It's more if you go to the automotive or to plane manufacturers. Of course, they do simulations with HPCs, but there are other applications where it makes sense, and we are on the way already here in Luxembourg discussing with companies, small and big ones, and to bring our knowledge on board.
And Anders, is this issue of barriers and solutions, is it something you also take into account when deciding where and how to build the HPC infrastructure? Do you also give some specific insights with respect to this accessibility for SMEs, or do you leave it at national level?
No, I mean, it is very much part of the European agenda as well. There's a strong ambition to support industry and specifically SMEs. You will see that when the machines go live. We are in the process of implementing an access policy, which is, say, Roger will own part of the time on his machine. We will manage another part of the machine. We are looking to make that available. We also have some specific projects that are targeting the SME community in and around helping, because it's not just to take the application you normally ran and move it to HPC. You need a skill set. You need help to do that. So it's very much part of the agenda.
I think if I may add, so I would say the easiest part is to give compute time to HPC professionals. But I think the most interesting part is with competences on board from our side to be able to help really the customer and to guideline him, and also to find a competent partner on our side that, as Marco said, speaks the customer language, knows what's going on. If you would like to help companies which are doing projects for the space, it's good to have somebody on board on our side who knows what they need and what's going on in space. So therefore, it's different if you speak for the fintech domain. It's good to know what the finance side is looking for, which is different to the space people.
Thank you, Andre. Marco, you already shared some thoughts in your presentation. Would you like to add something with respect to these barriers and solutions?
Yes. I just wanted to really back up Roger on what he mentioned. And that is that on one side, you need to have someone that's the language of the SME, but on the other side, you also need someone that understands what you are selling, what you're trying to do with SME. So we had this example during one of our last code camps in Caldi Factoring, where we compared, and forgive me, HPC experts, please forgive me, but we compared HPC to fast cars. And in this case, you are not just selling a fast car, you're asking a user, where do you want to go? So that you can figure out if they need such a fast car, because sometimes, you know, HPC is not needed, but it's wanted, like Roger said. But also, let me fine tune the way you use the car. Sometimes you might even need a driver, not a car. And that's where actually the experts on the technical side, so HPC, application deployment, and so on, comes in place. So here I think that it's the role of the Digital Innovation Hub within the background, competence centers and so on, to ask the right questions and to figure out who to involve and what to involve in terms of resources, assets and competencies.
Thank you, Marco. So maybe before we take some questions from the audience, would you like to share one final word on how HPC and EDIH could best collaborate? So one maybe something you would like to emphasize for the audience on this topic.
So the EDIH are covering much more than just HPC, because also, as Marco said, it's not just one part which could be covered by the HPC, it's globally, because digitalization, the data economy and all this is not just linked to HPC, because some companies, they don't need not at all in HPC. They can do it much better, but still are going into the digital domain. And therefore the digital innovation hubs I think are the center of this transformation, because they have to cope with cloud, with HPC, with networks and cybersecurity, and all which is added to these parts. And therefore I think they have to play a very important role, and all together we can just win all together.
Marco? One final thought.
Okay, well, I think that Roger said all the right things. What I want to say is that, like I said, you need a set of competencies because it's a complex journey. So you cannot just look at 2 points in one path. You need to look at the overall journey. Also, for being able to prioritize the resources and assets that you want to make available. So this is why it is good to have hubs that work with the experts, competence centers and so on, allowing to, prolongate, make a longer scope of what you can see in the path of an SME. And this, I think, is something that will be done with the EDIH and the HPC competence centers by extending the reach of regional digital innovation hubs or standard digital innovation hubs, by extending it from a geographical point of view, but also from a knowledge point of view. And I think that this is going to give us a way to look at the full path and being able to give the best guide we can.
Thank you, Marco. Anders?
Well, I think a lot have been said. If I look at it from the other side, though, I think the digital innovation hubs, and my hope is that it will help the awareness. I mean, here we have a community coming in, and we will have people in the innovation hubs with the knowledge that HPC is available as a tool in the toolkit, and be able to point the potential customer to it, possibly customers that hadn't thought about using HPC to solve a given problem. So I think it's really part of the awareness and raising the awareness that we have the HPC available as a tool in the toolbox.
Thank you very much for your answers. We still have some time to take some questions from the audience, so I will leave the floor to my colleague Giro, who will...
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. So I still see a little bit of activity, and there have been some activities in the chat. So I think people are sharing that they are nominated EDIH or they are sharing contacts. So I think this is a testimony to the interest of the HPC technologies, especially looking at after such a long day. I would like to make a special mention of the quote of Ana Isabel Sanchez, who said, "Magnificent intervention!" exclamation point. But she doesn't say to who. So I take the liberty to take it and give it to the whole panel. I take it to the whole panel. So let's go to have a look to some of the questions. So the question which is at the top at the moment is actually dedicated towards Mr. Lampach. And I'm going to quote, "It would be much appreciated to clarify the offer to SMEs. Operating HPC is costly. SMEs most of the time don't have enough expertise to operate HPC, nor the associated budget. What is your opinions?"
Okay, so I agree on what is said, and also there is a close combination with, on one side, European side, but also the local national side. And here in Luxembourg, this is covered by the Ministry of the Economy, and we have, or I would say, I cannot speak for the ministry, and I can't speak for Brussels, but I would say there we need some ways to help SMEs for the finance part, that also if they would go to a commercial company offering HPC services, that they should be able to pay reasonable price level, and on the other side also with the help of Brussels and national partners like the Ministry of the Economy. But it's correct. Using HPC is not for free, and on the other side, if you have a very powerful machine, the energy part is quite expensive.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lampak. There is two questions that I would like to mix because they are kind of related and they are related to something you have mentioned a bit earlier. So the question is, many companies today are using mainly US-based HPC services or cloud services like IBM or AWS, Microsoft. So the question is why an SME should prefer for HPC purposes an EDIH respect to a different cloud provider. And the attached question is, will the HPC initiatives offer a European clause based on EU regulation?
Anders, the question might be for you.
Well, I can definitely give it a try. I think with all respect for the services that are available in the cloud today, I think what you will be able to do on the supercomputers is a notch up from that, and we will have. I mean, the 3 pre-exascale machines. The expectation is that they will be in the top 10 of supercomputers. I mean, we're talking very significant machines. So there are possibilities on those machines that are not readily available out there, and that's what makes the HPC community a little different. What we will collectively provide with the competency centers, together with the hosting entities that are running the machines and potentially the digital innovation hubs, is the whole ecosystem around it, to not only have access to the hardware, but also the knowledge that it requires in order to port your application to that environment and to test it out. So that's the ambition that we will be able to provide. And I think I think
the cloud HPC solution is helpful for people which are able and which are professionals in that domain. If you are a newcomer and you have not the knowledge, and that's the differentiator for the competence centers in combination with the hosting entities of the supercomputers, is that they are competent people and they can help you to bring you to another level, this support you don't find with the big service providers. It's just using the machines. And of course, it's helpful. Of course, it's also speed is a subject, because on demand I can have access to such kind of machines. But as Anders said, I think the actual HPC machines which are now under construction, that's another level. And as Marco said, I use also the example of a Formula One. So I would say we have Formula Ones. We need the right drivers. We need around the right engineers to speed up and to keep it up and running. But that's a different level which you could find in the cloud service.
I think maybe, if I may add, it's also important to take note, it is not the intention of this to compete with services that are already available out there. Yeah. I mean, that's not our role. Our role is to provide something that is currently not available.
Jérôme?
And that's going to be, I think, the final questions. How will the coordination between the Digital European Programme and EuroHPC-Joint Undertaking take place? I think this will be a question for you, Anders.
Could you repeat it, please?
How will the coordination between EuroHPC Joint Undertaking and the Digital Europe Programme will work?
So that's actually under discussion at the moment. There's a new regulation that will come in to govern EuroHPC going forward. The way we've worked under the current regulation, where there are different programs funding us, is that we will issue grants based on within the funding frameworks and calls for for interest and fund projects, if that is what is meant with the question.
So I think that we're reaching the end of this session. I would like to thank you, the three of you, for your magnificent interventions.
Thank you.
Thank you to the audience as well, who stayed until the end of this first day of conference. And also thank you to all the organizers and especially all my colleagues within Lux Innovation who did an amazing job in organizing this event. I'll give back the floor to David. Thank you very much.
The floor back to David for the very last time of the day. Thank you, Sarah. That was very interesting. Thank you all to the panelists as well. What a day. What a day. We have had, just a quick overview, we've had 20 sessions today with 30 speakers, just over 30 speakers. We've had over 200 tweets across the platform at the hashtag EDIH 2021. So please keep pushing to that. You can add Lux Innovation to that if you want to. That's the team that's sitting in our social media corner. We had a peak concurrent connections today of 1,600 people, more or less. So that was in the morning. Each session had an average of around about 500 users. So wow, really wow. And to be right now at this moment, there's over 700 people connected as we speak. So a big shout out to those guys. It's been an awfully long day, and we've had so much information. We've also had a lot of feedback. We've had just over 1,300 questions asked by the audience. Those came in through the Q&A. Remember, use the Q&A, please. Don't ask the questions in the chat. The chances are they're going to get overlooked. So as Sarah said, thank you very much to all of the organizers here, to the freelance team behind who are making this all possible. All of this technology you can see around us, and the mixing stations and the sound and everything else that goes to get the remote people online. A fantastic job. Just a quick look at tomorrow. So I'm not going to let you off that easy. I want to see everyone back here, 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. We will have our Minister of the Economy, Mr. Franz Feil, who will be giving the opening speech. Then we'll have the CEO of the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, Mr. Thomas Castaños. Don't forget, 9:45, Digital Innovation Hub Challenge Prize Ceremony. It's getting harder to pronounce things as the day goes on. And there's going to be plenty of other things happening, sessions around digital transformation, digital impact. You're going to get to meet a lot of people online, both in the chat and in the virtual booths. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.